Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dad's listening to Tomcats. Talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. This some weeding now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. Alright, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Penny Bloom Podcast. It is I, Colton Robertson, and I am joined today by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
What up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it is always a pleasure to have you. Like I said, this is the Penny Bloom Podcast, and for the first time ever, I believe we've obviously talked a bunch of TV shows over the course of our 170 plus episodes now. But I don't think we've ever officially done a top 10, not even when it was just me and Tavares here. I think this is the first time, and today the topic at hand is your top 10 favorite TV shows of all time. And this got tough. This got really, really tough. More tough than I anticipated.
Yeah, the first half of the list came sort of relatively easy, but it wasn't easy squeezing out the ones that couldn't quite make it to the top 10, that's for sure.
And that's why we also have our honorable mention section, where anything that didn't quite make our top 10 that we feel could have will be acknowledged up front here. So there's no other criteria besides television show, sitcom, drama, whatever the fuck. It could be a docuseries. I don't care. Anything. If it's in your top 10 favorites and you've watched it on television, I'm there. So we'll start with honorable mentions. We'll go back and forth one at a time. So what's one of your honorable mentions?
I'll start it off with, it's definitely just an honorable mention here. This didn't really have any way of sneaking into the top 10, but just wanted to give it its credit. And that's a regular show. It's
okay.
Just, funny, just a cartoon I throw on. It's my comfort show. It's just what I go back to whenever I have nothing else to watch. I'll throw that on, or if I'm cleaning my room or something like that. And you can tell it was definitely meant to be an adult-ish show, or like something along the lines. It has a lot of adult humor, even though it seems very childish on the surface. But I don't know. I love that show. I just watch it all the time. So that's why it's just an honorable mention. No way it's getting in my top 10 favorite shows of all time. But
yeah, and I have a couple that I'm like right there with you. It's certainly, and the regular show, that's a good one to have in your honorable mention. That feels like an honorable mention show. I'll stick with you in that same vein then, and I'll throw you Star Wars: The Bad Batch. A show that I really, really, really enjoy. But it's just not a top 10 show, like favorites ever. It's definitely one of the most enjoyable watching experiences I've had, and watching that first season was exciting week to week, but it doesn't crack into the top 10, but I love the way it looks, love the performances by D. Bradley Baker and stuff, and it's just beautifully animated, and it's Star Wars, so I absolutely love it. But not quite a top 10, but definitely worthy of being mentioned here.
I'll stick with my last animated show, I think. Until we get into the real list.
Until we get into the real stuff, yeah.
But Avatar: The Last Airbender, another honorable mention. That just a cartoon or an anime, I don't really know what it classifies as. Like Avatar. I guess it was made in America, I think.
Yeah.
I don't. But like, just a beautiful show. That like, the storylines are so beautiful. Zuko's whole story, and just all the characters are beautifully crafted, and I mean, that show just doesn't get old. I can watch that over and over. Just a beautiful show. A lot of good philosophy moments and stuff in there too. So
Good choice. Good
Thought I'd
choice.
throw that in there.
All right, so I don't have any more animated shows, but I'll continue on with a sitcom that I absolutely love, and I've talked about it many times here before. But when I was just working it out, it's not worthy of the top. How I Met Your Mother. Like, I absolutely love it, but the ending, the very very ending, costs it. And there's another show somewhere on my list where the ending costs it, but the rest of it's too fucking good not to have there.
Okay. I was
But
gonna
How I
say,
Met Your
really? Well,
Yeah.
I was like, wow, did that bump it down that far?
No, it didn't. But How I Met Your Mother is an all-time sitcom for me. Definitely my favorite sitcom of all time. You'll find that I don't have any sitcoms in my top 10. And just to throw them out there with it, though, I loved Parks and Rec, love Friends, like I love The Office. I love the sitcom genre. But when it comes to how I define my favorite TV viewing experience is like, just how much did it just, like, I don't have to be joyful. I don't have to be happy. Like, I don't have to just be like, this is comforting. Like, it's just got to
How
be
sucked into the
good.
world were you? You
Yeah.
know, like that's a good metric that, like, I was looking at my top 5, and I'm like, yeah, when I was watching these shows, I was in that world. That's all I cared about at the time. I even sometimes, would, outside of the show, look into the show or make stuff, 3D print stuff from the show or
Oh,
something
absolutely.
along
Like,
the line. So,
what
like,
hit me outside, like what occupied my mind space as much as possible. And How I Met Your Mother at one time did do that. It was the first show that I ever binge watched all the way through when I was like 14. It occupies a nostalgic spot in my heart.
I see.
But I think I weigh that nostalgia pretty heavily in terms of, like, my favoritism is due to it. It's not just because of how good the show is.
Yeah, the rest of the honorable mentions are getting a little closer to getting up in there, but still not quite. And I'll throw in Gotham from
Okay.
Netflix. It was a show that surprised me. Everyone likes Batman. Everyone can get some Batman going, but who would have thought? Just little Bruce Wayne and little Selena Kyle, and all the younger versions, and eventually, you see how it all. I don't know. It was a really cool concept for a show. Gordon, his performance is great, even though he has some really weird smiles. He smiles really weird, and I don't know. That's the only thing about the show I could say is, like, kind of weird. But,
no, yeah, this is a good one because it's one that I've never gotten around to watching, but I've only ever heard good things about it. I've never heard bad things about Gotham. I've heard, like, the villain portrayals in that of, like, who is kind of their Joker, and Penguin, and Riddler.
Penguin is
Riddler
awesome.
a part of it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, like,
Penguin is awesome. Joker is amazing. Riddler is really good. Like, it's a really good show.
yeah,
Like,
I've heard it's a fantastic adaptation. It's just one that, like, sometimes those 40-minute dramas, they fall into this weird category where it's like there are hour-long shows that are better than this, and shorter shows that are more entertaining. So the 40-minute drama is just like, it's really hard to get into. But I'm gonna stick with you there. And my first 40-minute drama, the only 40-minute drama I believe on my list, is One Tree Hill. This is another show I watched very early on in terms of, like, when I consider myself to have started watching TV, not like just taking it in, processing story, knowing what it means, stuff like that. One Tree Hill was early on, like pretty much right off the coattails of How I Met Your Mother. So it's got another nostalgic vibe to it, but I'm not big on teen drama anymore. So this couldn't crack my top 10. But there was a time when this was like top 3 for me. I was like, this is one of my favorite shows of all time. And it deserves its respect because it's entertaining as fuck. The performances are pretty good. There's some funny shit in it because it is teen drama. So it's like, there's no way all this is happening. This is completely unbelievable, but sometimes that's exactly what you need out of something. It's funny like that. But One Tree Hill, it's very, very entertaining. And it was a big part of my high school years. So One Tree Hill.
Now this one, I would say the only reason, maybe not the only reason, but it's down here because it only has 2 seasons out. Second season just came out, but it's fantastic. I've been loving it so far. And it could very well have a possibility of sneaking up into the top 10 eventually. But it's The Witcher from Netflix. Henry Cavill just kills it. Oh my God. And that show's beautiful. Visually, it's amazing. The storyline's like incredible once you know what's going on. It's very confusing for the first season if you don't know what's going on. But then once you get cued in, like I watched it the first time all by myself, not knowing anything about The Witcher, really. Didn't play the games either, so I really like knew nothing. And then I'm watching, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, but damn, this is still just good. I'm clueless, and I still, am having a good time. And then I got cued in that it's 3 different storylines happening. It's 3 different timelines happening all at once. And that just cleared everything up. And once I had that, it's such a good show. And
Cool.
I see it going up there eventually if they keep it going.
Another question here, just going forward. And I know that you've made it clear to me that is not technically a spoiler. It's just helpful to know going into the series.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a show where something like that is happening, and it is a reveal. So are we going spoiler free with our top 10 here? Are we like all in spoilers, but like we can't warn them about individual shows until the show comes up? So it's like, if you haven't watched this, skip ahead, but this is what it is. Like,
I guess we can try our best to keep it spoiler free, but if we're about to drop something big that's necessary, then maybe like we'll say like,
okay, yeah, I'm game with that. I'm game with that.
But
The Witcher. All right. So I'll stick with you there in terms of Netflix originals, and you had 4 honorable mentions, right?
I have one more. I do have one more.
Okay, I think I have 1, 2. I have 3 more, so I'll just go ahead and go then. I'll stick with you in terms of Netflix originals and go Stranger Things. Didn't quite crack the top 10, and it's kind of mind-boggling to me because like as recently as a year ago, I probably would have told you that was top 5. It's just like the way that I've evolved and as a viewer of television and movies has kind of dropped it down the list. And it's still one of the most enjoyable television experiences I've ever had. I'm so excited every time a season comes out. It's one of those, I'm staying up till 2 a.m. and I'm watching a few episodes as soon as it drops. I'm staying up real late, waking up the next day, finishing it. Like, that's kind of how I handle Stranger Things. And it's definitely one of the most exciting shows ever, frankly. I love, and it's so entertaining. But there was just something about it that's like, God, like these top 10 shows I have are like the top 10 viewing experiences I've ever had. Like that's kind of how I view it. Like the first time I watched it, how much was I just like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just kind of where I'm at.
That's true. And not to discredit any of these honorable mentions, they're coming right after the 10. These are all
like, and 4 of my 6, I'd say everyone besides the Bad Batch and One Tree Hill could have been my 10. Could have been my 10. So like, these are all very close, and Stranger Things was as close as any. Besides one, I'd say, and I have one more. I have another couple, but we'll get there.
My last one, I guess if you want me to rip it off, is Dexter. This was the closest one to making it into my top 10, I would say. Dexter, if it's just another, if you like serial killers, everyone, some people have this certain itch with serial killers where, they'll absorb any serial killer content that is available. And I was going through a phase, for a little bit of a serial killer vibe, and not like that, just
not like
media,
that. Not like
media
that.
Consumption of serial killer stuff like Mindhunters.
True
Dexter,
crime stuff.
Yeah, true crime. And someone recommended me Dexter, and I would say this is like maybe, I don't know, one other show on my list was before this, but this was like the first kind of real show that I watched was Dexter. Like whenever I sat down and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to watch a show and I'm going to care about it and I'm going to, read into everything. Dexter was like one of the earliest shows that I've ever watched.
Yeah, I'm thinking back, and like in terms of like a real drama, like I've said, I watched How I Met Your Mother and I watched One Tree Hill, but like to a degree, those aren't quite as intense. Dexter might have also been my first.
Yeah, it's a weird, like, it's kind of a forgettable show a little bit, in
I
the
don't
grand
remember
scheme.
shit about it.
In the grand scheme of, these top 10 shows, that's why it's kind of down here in the honorable mention, because it is a little forgettable. But really, like, I remember while watching it, I was like riveted by every single storyline. I'm like, I need to know what happens in the show. And I guess it's another show where the ending was a little hated by people, the lumberjack, whatever. Like I don't know if you fully remember. I vaguely remember him heading out into like a hurricane, like full John B style. And then
I watched this show before the seasons had finished.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah,
before the show had been done, and I didn't even quite finish it then. I think I got through 6 seasons.
Okay.
And I'd reached a point in the show where I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, and it gets there. Like, it gets to that point. The later seasons, you're just kind of watching it because you like Dexter that much, where you're just like, well, okay, it's more Dexter content. I'll watch it.
Right, yeah.
But I guess they have a new,
new blood, renewing
it. Yeah, right? Like, that's kind of crazy. But I guess, the show's been out for long enough. I don't. Would you care if I just told you how it ended?
Oh, fuck no, go for it. I'm not gonna watch it.
I can't tell you really anything specific, but he's like on the brink of getting caught. All of his bodies that were in like the water have been found, and it's like everyone's like, oh my God, this is one of the biggest serial killers like of all time. Like, this guy has killed hundreds and hundreds of people, and they're just all in the bottom of the ocean. And so he's running, like, people know about him now, I think, or like the police do, and they're trying to catch him. And he decides to just go off in his boat into the ocean. And there's like a full hurricane going on at the time. Damn. And you're just like, oh, well, okay. The police stop chasing him. He's dead. Like, it's okay. Whatever. Like, he's dead, like, whatever.
Then the new Dexter series comes out, and it's like,
well, yeah. And then it just fades to black, and you're like, really? They're not even going to like show him that. It's just like he's dead, going out to water. But then you just see him working in a lumberjack like farm. Like, he's just chopping down trees and like with a full beard. And like, then it just ends of him just being a lumberjack somewhere else. So
they were just like, he got away.
I have zero clue how. No idea where he is either. He's just a lumberjack.
I guess if you've watched the new series, you'll find out.
Yeah.
Because they're continuing the fucking story, which is insane. But yeah, I remember watching that. Shit. I was probably 14 then too. Like, I went on a run here where it was like How I Met Your Mother, One Tree Hill. It was like I watched a ton of TV this year because it was like the first time I realized, holy shit, I love watching TV. And I remember like, surprise, motherfucker. And I was like, oh, goddamn, that's what this is from. But yeah, like there were a few moments where I was just like, holy shit. It did hold me for like a few, like those first few seasons especially are like really good. But yeah, it ultimately lost steam for me, and it is pretty forgettable. And like I said, I watched it 8 years ago. So it's been a minute. But yeah, I dig it.
It is all of my honorable mentions.
All right, I got 2 more, so I'll rattle them off here. I got Ted Lasso, one of the best comedies I've ever watched, but the second season ramps it up to the point where I'm like, well, this is officially not, like, if you considered it a sitcom in season 1, you certainly didn't in season 2. They ramped up the drama level to where it was just like, man, it gets sad, but it ultimately comes together. It's one of the most comfort shows I can think of, like, just heartwarming, good feels. Like, you're just going to be happy. And there will be moments where you're like, fuck! But they usually pay off and you'll be happy. And that's why Ted Lasso is so fucking good. Jason Sudeikis is outstanding. And it's incredibly well acted, incredibly well written. And if you're from Kansas City or anywhere in this area, especially, you're probably going to enjoy it because they're from Wichita, and there's a lot of mentions of like Kansas City and Kansas City barbecue and stuff, and like they wear Kansas City stuff all the time. It's fantastic.
Sick.
And then my last honorable mention, and this is the one that I'm like I feel the worst about in terms of having it in my honorable mentions. It was definitely the closest to getting top 10, but in terms of pure enjoyment levels, I don't know that it's Daredevil.
It's up there. Oh wait, as an
honorable mention. Yes.
Wow. That's wow.
No, yeah. No, and here's the thing is that it is undoubtedly, I think, the best comic book show I've ever watched. There's zero doubt in my mind that that's the case. But I think the fact that I was a little late to the party, B, already knew some of the shit that happened, and kind of generally I didn't know how the show ended, but I knew they made it out safe. So like it automatically removed some stakes for me. And that's kind of where I was just like, and no gripes with the show, literally not a single one. Don't have any gripes with it. It's just that like the first viewing being as exciting as possible for me definitely plays a factor. And the first viewing of Daredevil, I mean, like I loved it, but I wasn't like I gotta watch the next episode of Daredevil. I was just watching Daredevil. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I have this leads kind of perfectly into mine because I was debating on my 9 and 10. Like, they were the only ones that I was like, these could be really interchangeable right here. And I'll throw Daredevil as my 10 then, just so like make it easy. So it's definitely in my top 10. Like I watched it as it was kind of coming out. So I was kind of on the first wave and everything. So I got all the hype with all that. So that was a lot of fun. Waiting for another season to come out and then getting it and then it being that good was
there's
like,
something so special about that, and like the fact that I got to just burn through 3 seasons just didn't hit right. You know what I'm saying?
And I mean, I'm currently rewatching the show, finished season 2. So like, and now that I'm rewatching it, a little bit older, and everything, I have cried like way more in this show. Like, just because the character connections are that good. Like,
oh, it's so good. It's so well done.
Like whenever, minor spoilers, whenever, Karen, takes Ben's office back, and the folders left there for her, like Ben's folder on her, and
he knew she'd be coming around.
Oh man,
and Ellison, the way Ellison grows on you over the course of the series, you're like, damn, I really fuck with this dude. Like, and that's a minor character that they do such a good job of fledging out, and that's where I'd say there's something to be said for Daredevil, 13 episodes, and Marvel seems to like the 6-episode format. It is a perfect example of why you need 13 episodes, because we do a really good job in those MCU shows about caring about one character. That's generally what you're going to get. 1 or 2 characters that you're really getting an emotional resonant story about. And then another fun side of things and events just happening to other characters. And this, you get to know every character. And it benefits greatly from that. It's so important. And Daredevil is just fantastic for that reason.
Yeah, it's one of the only not of the only shows on this list, but a lot of times I am not just caring about Matt's storyline or Daredevil's storyline. I'm like, man, I really want to know what is going on with Karen, or I really want to know what's going on with Punisher, or with
Show me Foggy,
or with like with everyone else. I'm like, I am in this show. And rewatching it has only, like, I don't think if I rewatched it, I don't think it would be my 10. I think it would be an honorable mention. But after rewatching it, it's just been like, oh my God, I forgot how much I loved this show. And the first viewing, how special that was. Like,
there was also the fact that I didn't want recency bias to come into play here. I did just finish that show 3 weeks ago. It is the show I am most fresh on. So like I like my instinct, it was like the 4th show I took down. Like in terms of like, I was just like writing out a list, top 10 favorite shows, Daredevil. And then like I kept going, but Daredevil ultimately worked its way out of the top 10 as more and more revealed themselves. And
what's his name?
I think it'll benefit from a rewatch.
Melvin is a
Melvin,
the guy who makes the suits and the armor and everything. A real one. Whenever he gives Matt that like his like stick where he can take it apart and grapple whatever, you know, he's like,
it's an original design.
Yeah, he's like, you know, the real people know who's protecting Hell's Kitchen, and like we got to pay it forward or whatever.
God
and it's
damn,
just like,
I
oh
love
my,
that show.
What a
it's
guy,
so
man!
Fucking good.
He just wants to protect Betsy. You know, he just wants to protect his Betsy.
Pretty cool little revelation about Betsy in season 3, if I remember correctly too. But
what a cool show! Like a show that can make you care about a Melvin. You know, like
yeah, right.
In a show that's just a character that's like, oh hey, he's the guy who made the suit, and then now he's gone. You know, whatever.
Right.
But like they give you a reason to sort of care about him, and like they do that with everyone, and that's I'm glad that it did make my top 10 now that I'm talking about it. It makes me feel more comfortable. That
I'm happy for you too. I'm happy for you too. But I'll go to my 10. And this was hard, but ultimately I was like, this is a top 10 favorite show. I get so many laughs when I'm watching it every single time. It's undeniable. It's Rick and Morty.
Okay.
Rick and Morty had to make the top 10.
Rick and Morty was one of the first shows to like pop in my mind. And I'm like, do I put this, is this a show that like belongs on this list? You know, like,
I think it is. And the only thing that was holding me back was the perception of people who typically regard this as their favorite show. And I was like, fuck that. Fuck it. No, I like this show. You know, like I like this show a lot. And it's one of the single funniest shows ever. It's so incredibly creative. It has endless legs. Like I don't see this like it will
seasons Rick and Morty. Forever Rick and Morty.
On for as long as they want that shit to go on, because they keep coming up with ideas that's just like, what the fuck were you even thinking? How did you do that?
That has to be one of the most fun shows to work on too. Like just to be a part of that creative process, like and Justin Roiland just getting drunk and doing Rick, you know, like he has to balance like I don't know if he does all of Morty first and then do Rick, but I'm pretty sure he does like scene by scene. So like he does like the conversations like pretty like back to back to each other is like what I get the idea from. So like I always like to believe that like they film these in sequential order so that just as the episode goes on, Rick is just getting more and more drunk and Morty's just getting more and more drunk. But like it's a show that I don't know. It's unlike any other, you know. It's not like another funny. Like, there's not another show that's like Rick and Morty, you know?
No,
like,
not.
I guess the closest thing, Robot Chicken, you know?
Yeah,
but like,
I guess.
Like, I mean, it's basically like an SNL, but for animated. Yeah, I don't know. I guess there's kind of shows that are similar now that I think about it, but like, it's in its own caliber, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, definitely. There's a few shows that you know, the sci-fi adult animation thing, it's been done, but not to this level. Like not even close. I mean, like Futurama, that's another one that comes to mind. Yeah. That's pretty strong.
I love
Rick and Morty.
Futurama.
I think is just undeniable. But yeah, that's
a good.
That's why it comes in.
I'm glad you put it in your 10 because I didn't put it in here at all. So I'm glad it's getting.
Oh, you didn't put it in here at all? I thought that.
Mm-mm.
I thought you might sneak that in here.
No, I left it out. I can't even believe I didn't put it in honorable mentions.
I can't either. I thought for sure because it wasn't in your honorable mention, it was in your top 10. But
yeah, I just kind of threw like comedies out, I guess for whatever reason. Like every show that's on here on mine is kind of like more of a for real
serious
show,
in tone. I think from here on out, mostly serious in tone for me too. I think that'll be the last one that is solely comedy. There are other ones that have comedy, but there's definitely a drama streak that kind of outweighs it, and you got to know going in.
here's the last Marvel one here. It was sneaking in here for sure for me, and that's What If. It's only one season, but I do not give a fuck. This was one of the most enjoyable seasons of television that I've ever watched. I love the concept. I think they just executed on it perfectly, and I wish we could have had What If sooner so that we could just have as many seasons of this as possible. I mean, season 2 is already confirmed, and I already know I'm probably gonna dig it. I'm comfortable putting What If already in my top 10. It's just I love shows that there's nothing else like them. You know, there's
Right.
really nothing else like a What If, and you can't really have that without a massive franchise like Marvel.
It's like whether Marvel fans realize it or not, it's their dream. You know, like that's the dream when it comes to like really loving the lore of the MCU is What If.
And this was like I was going back and forth on my 10. Right, it's just like the 2 Marvel shows. You know, I was going to put them down there just so I can get them out of the way, whatever. But like, I don't want to like just because it has the Marvel name on it or whatever. Like, doesn't mean that it's like any lesser of a show. Like, obviously, it's down at 9 and 10 for a reason comparatively to the rest of these shows.
But that's not the reason.
The reason it's up here is not because it's a critically great show or, you know, whatever. It's just super fun. It's fan
top
service.
10 favorites.
Yeah, it's you know. So I don't know. Another one of my comfort shows. I go back to it quite often. So
all right,
had to throw it up in there.
Then I'll stick right there with you with my 9 in Marvel, WandaVision. Yeah, I love that we both were on the same page here at our 9s with the Marvel move, Disney Plus series. But WandaVision, I absolutely fucking love this show. As far as the MCU shows have been concerned, there hasn't been one that has even come close to rivaling it as far as my enjoyment is concerned. I riding that wave on the initial WandaVision release in January of 2020 through like the end of February and maybe into March a little bit. That was fantastic. And this show did the perfect thing with 9 episodes. Where we're not getting the 13 and we're not getting the 6, and so did What If. Like the 9 episode series, that like the 9 to 10 episode series is the move. Whether Marvel is realizing it or not, they should as soon as possible. 6 episodes just isn't enough. It can be good, and it has been, but it could be great. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I mean. Like it's been good, but it could be great, and they're just not reaching that level. But WandaVision for me was as close as it's gotten. Elizabeth Olsen is fantastic. Paul Bettany is awesome. Catherine Hahn as Agatha Harkness, just fucking outstanding. And Evan Peters back as Quicksilver, or so we think.
Yeah, all the theorizing that this show bred. You know, this was a. I don't know. This took Marvel by storm. You know, this took the world by storm. That everyone that watched it. You know,
I don't know if you saw the numbers yesterday, but it was the most watched series of 2021.
That makes sense.
It was viewed for like 70 billion minutes or something total.
I mean, people were theorizing. People were obsessing over Elizabeth Olsen. You know, like everyone had something out of this show. It gave everyone something, and they killed it. They did kill that show. And man.
So WandaVision's my 9, and that'll be it for Marvel, I believe.
All right. Moving on. My number 8 is Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
Cumberbatch. And I believe it's only like 3 seasons and only like 3 episodes per season, or 3 or 4, you know, whatever. So I mean,
they're each an hour though, so you do end up getting like 12 hours of content or something. Like
the whole Moriarty storyline, like him versus Moriarty, was oh my god. Like I don't know, this show was like they had to kind of think like a Sherlock or like a Moriarty, even like
you
to
have
make
to
the
be
show,
smart
you know?
to write
so, like,
the show.
Yeah, the show was it's insane that
meticulously
they wrote it.
written. It's fantastic. That's a great addition to the top 10. I'm glad you had it for sure.
It's, you know, not much to say about Sherlock, you know, like
no, not at all. It's just you have to watch it, like and as soon as you watch it, it'll probably be in a top 10. Like it's just that good, and there's no doubt about it for me.
I love the Brainiac characters,
Mm.
Vision, Sherlock. So this one, and it was Benedict Cumberbatch too. So like,
Just a cherry on top there.
He does fit this role really well too, like
So
the Sherlock role. Out of our two Marvel boys, who played Sherlock, I think Doctor Strange takes it over.
I think
over
Benedict
Tony.
takes the cake there. But if you're looking for an action hero, Robert Downey Jr. as Sherlock Holmes was as fun an action hero as you get, frankly. But yeah, that's a really good one. I'm glad you had it. Ready for my 8?
I'm ready.
Breaking Bad.
Wow, interesting.
Yes, this is one that I do recognize how great it is, and just how fucking oh my god, this was fantastic. So well written, so well acted. And it did have that degree of just like, I can't wait to watch the next episode. But I also am not as high on it as like a lot of people are like, this is top 3. This is a top 3 show all time. And I'm not quite there. Like it's definitely up there, but Breaking Bad for me, it falls towards the bottom of the top 10 in pure enjoyment as far as that's concerned. But I love Bryan Cranston. I love Aaron Paul, Giancarlo Esposito. It's just fantastic.
Thank you so much, because I'm on the exact same page as you. Like everyone that talks of Breaking Bad is like, oh, it's like, yeah, one of the best shows I've ever seen for sure. Like, it's, and I think it's like that because at the time that this show came out, there weren't the number of good TV shows that are out now. And it was the best of like the best that they had, back then. Like before everyone started releasing shows. I'm not discrediting Breaking Bad in any way. It is my number 7, which is just hilarious. But yeah, it's a fantastic show. The reason it falls down for me is that when I look at these other shows, I was more into the world than I was in Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad I still cared about and the storylines were great, but I could take a month break from, a season or something like that. And like, and that'd be like, okay. And I didn't really do anything outside of the show. It was just kind of like, yeah, I'm watching the show. It's great. It's amazing. But that's pretty much all it is that it's just a great and amazing show that you got to watch.
And on top of that, like there's spinoff material.
Better Call
Saul. And if there's spinoff material that I'm like, I don't need to watch that, then I'm clearly not as high on it as I could be. You know what I'm saying? Because that's like true. There's certain things where it's like, if that's getting spun off, I'm a fucking watch it. And Breaking Bad's not quite there, but I did really, really enjoy it all in all. And it's like, it feels blasphemous to not have it in your top 10 favorite shows just because it is that fucking good. But yeah, like top 3, like where a lot of people have it is just like not quite there. Not even top 5 for me, as you can see. But yeah, Breaking Bad as a 8, my 8, your 7.
Yes, my 7. Mm-hmm.
All right, so on to my 7. Got Netflix original BoJack Horseman.
Ah, what a classic! Oh my god, I forgot. Yeah, this would have definitely been I think an honorable mention for me. But oh my god, wow! Now that you say it, what a show! Like,
dude, BoJack Horseman is all time. It is a show that, and this is the one I was specifically referencing when I was like, "There's funny." But boy, oh boy, is it fucking sad. BoJack Horseman is as devastating as any show I've ever watched. And this is an animated series about a talking horse.
Whoa. Yeah, what a weird show, like, to get into in the first place, because you have no idea how good it is before you get into it.
Nope.
I feel like people, like, the way I got into it is I was at school, like, chilling late at night one night, and it was, like, just up there, like on Netflix, and I'm like, that looks, kind of funny. I heard, maybe saw a commercial for it or something. I just played the first couple episodes and then was just hooked ever since then. Like,
yep.
It's a really weird show to get into, and people who haven't seen it will not understand. Like, they'll be like, "Well, like, what?" Not are you talking at all. About?
No, this is without a doubt my favorite animated series of all time. And one of my favorite, like, I think, judging by where it's at here, my favorite comedy of all time, if you define it as a comedy. It is, I mean, Will Arnett voicing BoJack Horseman, outstanding. Alison Brie voicing Diane Wen, outstanding. Paul F. Tompkins voicing Mr. Peanut Butter,
God.
like, and all the guest appearances, just the storyline you get, and like that first season, you know, like you're under the impression that Diane and BoJack are like the point of the show, and then it eventually gets to the point where like it doesn't do what you want it to do. You know, like,
yeah,
and in the best way possible. Like what you want to happen doesn't happen because that's not gonna happen. That's not how this would go. If this is BoJack, and just kind of playing on some recent sad news, but do you know who BoJack Horseman is kind of based off of?
No.
Bob Saget.
Damn.
Yeah. Interestingly enough.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very, very interesting.
What a show, though. Like, man, I'm so glad you brought that up. I am so sad that I forgot about it. Man.
Like that whole shit with like him and his like his TV daughter, like that whole storyline, absolutely devastating. The producer chick who he worked with, who's like he goes and visits her in New Mexico, and that results in just like, oh my God, like stop doing what you're doing, man. Get your shit together. And like it just never, it hardly ever gets better. And that's just kind of, but it's undeniably good. And that's why it's like it's one of my favorite shows of all time, and it gets there at 7 for me.
That's awesome. I'm definitely glad you brought that in there. Because mine are my 6 is Ozark.
Ooh, okay. I'm glad you brought that up. I watched the first couple seasons, but
yeah, new season just came out. Haven't watched it yet. I've heard some good things, but of the seasons that I have seen, which is I believe 1 through 4, I believe they're on 5 now, or are they on 4?
They're on 4.
They're on 4. So I've seen 1 through 3, and they're all fantastic. End of season 3, you're just left mind blown. You're like, what? I need that next season. Like I have been waiting for a long time for this season. And I can't wait to watch it. It's just, I mean, Jason Bateman, he just plays the role really well. The whole it's kind of like I don't know, it's kind of like a Sopranos-esque where it's really just focused on the family that's going through it. You know, like there's all of these crazy things that's happening around them. Like it's another organized crime show, basically. What he gets into, but not boss level of like he's not the boss, you know.
Oh no, definitely not. No, I've watched the first couple seasons, and I really did enjoy the first couple seasons big time, and it has you on the edge of your seat all the time and never fucking stops. Yeah, that's a really good one. I'm glad you have it, as it wasn't anywhere on my list, but now I'm thinking about it, probably should have been an honorable mention at least, because those first 2 seasons are fantastic.
Yeah, her name, Julia Garner, who plays Ruth. She plays Ruth.
Ruth is
so
fantastic.
well. And the wife, Wendy, played by Laura Linney. Laura
Linney actually makes an appearance in BoJack Horseman.
Interesting.
As Laura Linney.
I didn't know that. What?
She's on the airplane with Diane Wen on her way home from Vietnam. And
okay.
And
what a sentence to say. Like,
yeah.
Okay, go on.
But she's like what
after she came back with that war hero or whatever that he was trying to get a book written for him or whatever.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's on the way to Vietnam or on the way from Vietnam, but she says she's going there to chase her dream. She's going to live her life, and she's like, that's so moving. And she's like, yeah, we're shooting a movie. And she goes into that whole like weird sci-fi thing where like it's my clone, and then we shoot each other like, and it's like, and like it's Laura Linney talking, so it's just all the funnier. But yeah, that's Laura Linney and BoJack Horseman and Ozark, little crossover there.
Interesting. Yeah, there's my 6. That's my my bottom 5. Basically.
All right. So my 6. This is tough, but because I want it to be top 5, but I just don't think it quite is. Watchmen, starring
What?
Regina King. That's the one you forgot, huh?
Oh my God, no. Okay, now I'm very devastated. This is a forget that is definitely in the top 10. Like not an honorable mention. This is like, oh my God, fuck.
Oh my God, fuck.
Damn, yeah, this makes it way harder. Of what I guess I'll just stick with my list, so we can just have some variation and not just say the same thing.
How
But
about you tell us where you think it would go right here?
Okay, it probably would be my 5 or my
Okay,
4.
cool.
It probably would be my
Gotcha.
5 or my 4.
No, yeah, and I considered it, but I wanted it to be top 5, but these shows I've got at my 4 and 5. The highest it would have climbed to was 4. Like I just can't comfortably put it above it. I just can't. But Watchmen, the most like I've never enjoyed a season of television on that level besides one other time. This is one of the or 2 other times. And they're coming up. But The Watchmen is so fucking good. Regina King, absolutely outstanding. She is just mind-blowing. And, I mean, Yahya Abdul-Mateen as her husband and the revelations that we come to later on in the series. Like, it's just like,
oh, what a cool
oh
world
my
they built.
God.
Like, they built such a cool... That story's just so cool. Like, so interesting. There's so many mind blows in that. You know, you think you got it figured out, and you're like, oh man, that show is it? Are they coming back, or is that's all they're making?
The creator of that show, Damon Lindelof, he said his vision was just for one season, but he doesn't own the property, so if HBO wants to go ahead and make a second season, they can. He just wouldn't be a part of it. And if you watch Damon Lindelof's stuff, because I believe he also made a show that I don't know what's on the rest of your list, but I think if I remember correctly, you really like another show that Damon Lindelof did. He likes the mind blowing ending thing. So Watchmen probably has one of the most mind-bending, like, holy fucking shit endings of all time. And if they don't have Damon Lindelof on for a season 2, probably not going to be as good, frankly. Could still be good, but probably not as good.
I see. Yeah. Man, I can't believe I forgot that. That makes me really sad now. I felt like there was like one big one that I was forgetting. It always kind of happens.
It happens, yeah.
But I guess moving into my top 5.
Yeah, that was my bottom 5. Bottom 5. Let's read off our 6 through 10s again. I had Watchmen, BoJack Horseman, Breaking Bad, WandaVision, and Rick and Morty.
I had Ozark, Breaking Bad, Sherlock, What If, and Daredevil.
Beautiful. So, love that.
Now in breaking the top 5 is Peaky Blinders.
Peaky fucking Blinders.
Yeah, the Peaky fucking Blinders, mate. I mean, I didn't watch the show for the longest time, and I had so many people recommending it to me. And I was just like watching other shows at the time. But then I'm like, you know what?
Where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? I'm doing it. I have to. It's like I've seen it at the top charts of Netflix every time a new season comes out, and like it's just always up there. I just got to know what's going on.
It's always in the discussion,
and I get it. I get it. Like it makes total sense. Like people aren't just saying it out of nowhere. Like this show, oh my God, is so good. Another show that gets you to cry a lot. A lot of emotional moments, a lot of action moments, a lot of, you know, it's do you even know like what it's generally about?
I've watched the first couple episodes a couple times, actually. Just in the times where I've been like, all right, time to jump into Peaky Blinders. Let's do this. And then I'll watch it and I'll be like, I really, really like it, but it's not the move right now. I'll come back to it. And I just still haven't come back to it. But I know I will. And it's another one of those shows where it's like, I'm kind of saving it for myself. Eventually I'll get to it and be like, holy shit, I can't believe I didn't watch it sooner, because it always happens.
I mean, it's another crime show, you know, crime family, basically just the rise of a crime family, if I had to summarize it.
Yeah, the Peaky Blinders.
And Oh my God. It just keeps like getting better. Like is the thing. Is that like, well, I don't know. The first couple seasons are very strong, but it doesn't really lose its steam, in my opinion. And that's kind of why it breaks into the top 5, is that a lot of these other shows, they had their steam at the beginning, but then kind of lost it, or it just didn't stack up to a show of this caliber. But this show kind of does both. It's great and it stays great for the whole time. So
gotcha. All right. That's a good 5. My 5 is Sherlock, one that we've already discussed. Yes, Sherlock is undeniably one of my favorite shows of all time, specifically for season 2. I said Watchmen's one of the best seasons of television I've ever watched, behind maybe a couple others, and Sherlock season 2 is one of those. That's, like we said earlier, just the meticulousness of the writing. You have to be forward thinking as fuck to write any of it.
The brain
you have
palace,
to be
where he's seeing everything in his mind palace or something. Yeah, mind palace.
And like, I love the portrayal of him as an addict too, which like they did a really, really good job with. And Benedict Cumberbatch, like you said, just fucking fantastic. Yeah, I and we've already spoke on it, so I don't need to do it too much more justice. And like we said earlier, not a ton to talk about there. You just have to watch it and you'll fucking know. Sherlock is just mind blowing, and it's a top 5 show ever for me, which I was pleasantly surprised to find. And I've always regarded it as such, but I feel even more confident now that I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know. Whenever I put Sherlock in at my 8, I was like, I wonder if a lot of people like have watched this show. Or I wonder how like big of a show it is, because like the other shows that are on, Breaking Bad, Ozark, Peaky Blinders, I've heard people talk about those a lot,
right?
And like I don't really hear a lot of people talking about Sherlock. So I'm glad that it was on your list, and that like I wasn't alone, and I'm glad that you even liked it more than I did. I
love that show.
And now that I'm thinking about it, like I probably liked it more than Breaking Bad. I probably liked it more than Ozark.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is that like of the shows on my list here, the 2 I haven't watched in the longest time are Breaking Bad and Sherlock. Mostly because Sherlock's not available for free anywhere anymore. So not able to watch it, but yeah, like I was making my list, and I was like, I was trying to figure out where to place Breaking Bad, and I was like, well, I don't want recency bias to play into it. And then I looked at it and I was like, well, I think I've watched all of these shows since I've watched Breaking Bad, so I don't think I have anything to worry about there. But yeah, Sherlock at number 5 for sure. Sherlock's a lock.
I did say that Dexter was one of the first shows that I watched, and I think that's wrong. I think this was my first show, and this is Lost.
Damon Lindelof.
Awesome. Okay, that's what you're referring to. I was thinking it was something else, but I'm glad that it was this one, because this makes sense. This makes more sense that this was him. A lot of people, they don't like how this ended. But I don't know. I don't really have any beef with it. It's the first like 3-4 seasons are just so good. And the last couple, they kind of get out there, and I see a lot of people like losing steam, but I didn't lose steam with it. Like I loved the show. It was just one mind blow after the other. You really had zero clue on where they were going. If you had any, make a theory, whatever, you're wrong next episode. Like that's just how it was in Lost. And show came out in 2004, I think, like the first season. And it had like that black like fog, whatever. Like it had some cool like visual effects for the time. Like I heard people say that the show was like, it looked good for the time. And like the soundtrack of this show is like every character has their own song, and they change each character's song. Kind of like a Star Wars, where like Leia has her song, Luke has his song, and they change
Everyone's
them
got their theme
depending on the situation they're in. And Lost did this like beautifully with every character. And it's just another show where they get you to care about every single character. And that's kind of the whole point of the show is all of these people are stranded on an island. They have no idea what's going on. And, obviously like chaos is going to ensue. And what happens between the people is, I don't know. It was amazing. I don't know if I watched this before Dexter, but I feel like I did watch Lost before Dexter. So this was probably my first real TV show viewing. But man,
gotcha.
Yeah, I love Lost.
All right, cool. So that was your 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so on to my 4. Westworld. And this is the other season of television I was talking about. Season 1 of Westworld is the single greatest season of television that has ever graced any screen. It is phenomenal. I cannot speak highly enough about it. Anyone who I've ever shown Westworld immediately loved it. Like everyone like there's no way if you are into sci-fi in any way that you don't like Westworld. Like it's undeniably one of the GOATs. And the only reason it falls here a little bit out of my top 3 is because seasons 2 and 3 aren't what season 1 was, but season 1 was just so fucking great that alone propelled it to my top 5.
Oh yeah.
And season 2 was fucking awesome too, but
thank
season
you
1
for recommending me to watch Westworld.
Of course.
Thank you for putting me on. I will talk about it later. Guaranteed.
I figured. I knew that was coming up for you at some point.
So I'll save my Westworld talk.
I really don't have much more to say on it. It's just we'll save the rest of the conversation for you. But Westworld at my number 4. I wanted it to be higher, but these top 3 are they're my top 3, and I can't not have it be that way. But what's your 3?
So 3, and this is interesting for me, is because I haven't fully finished the show yet.
There we go.
I'm only through season 4.
Yep.
So it is The Sopranos.
Lovely.
And I know we'll probably be talking about this some more. So I'll save my comments because I don't really have the full scope of the show. But it's to show that I've only seen 4 seasons and it's already my number 3, probably going to become my number 2. I'd assume. If I had to guess, the show, it's amazing. I'm in, and I don't know. Another show. Thank you for putting me on.
Of course. And here's the thing. HBO has the shits. Their TV shows are fucking awesome. And there's very few misses.
My top 3 are all HBO.
Yeah, and I now know who your last 2 are, which is very interesting. I'll go ahead and build on you. My 3 is The Sopranos also.
Interesting.
I absolutely love this show, but just in comparing it to my top 2 in terms of just pure enjoyment levels, it's not quite there. But it is the greatest show of all time. If we were going the best, what is the top 10 best shows of all time, this is 1. But I'm going favorites, so it's 3.
We said it before, like it's The Godfather stretched out to however many hours of content it is, and they do
86.
it beautifully. It's another show like Daredevil where they make you care about every single character, and they give you enough from each person to where you have a thing to where if you lose them, you're devastated, no matter really who they are, unless they're just a massive dick. But yeah, this, I can't wait to finish this show.
No, and I wish we could talk. I cannot wait for us to be able to talk about the ending of that show because I want to know what you think, and
I got to get there.
Oh my God. And then you got to watch Many Saints after you finish the show because, oh dude, there's just so much there. And The Sopranos, like as I was watching it, this is one where you said earlier, Breaking Bad, you could take a month off in between seasons and you didn't feel pressed. It took me over a year to watch The Sopranos. And it wasn't just because I was like, I'm uninterested, I'm disinterested, I'm gonna go ahead and put this down. It was because I was like, that was a lot. I need to think on it. I need to
That's
remember
true.
the things that happened. And then I went ahead, put it on hold, and I watched the next season, put it on hold, watched the next season. And then, like, the gap I took between seasons 3 and 4, I believe, was like months.
Damn.
Like, I didn't watch, and then I came back around to it, finished 4, 5, 6 A and B pretty sequentially. But
yeah, that's kind of how I am too with it. Is I'll like watch an episode and I'll be like, if it's getting late, I'll be like, man, I probably could watch another one, and I do want to know what happens, but like,
I can't.
This show is just so much better if you just sit and just watch.
Just pace yourself with
yes,
it, man.
like it is weird because every other show that like it's on this list, I wanted to just run through it, and just like go. But this one, it is like I like to just like an episode a day, even like I don't even like to go over an episode. Like
I love that you compared it to Daredevil. Because that's how I watched Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
The same way I watched The Sopranos. There's just a lot less of it, so it took me less time. Watch one episode a day, sit there with it. If I really, really wanted to, I watch another. But it was like max 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't going over that. And the Sopranos just absolutely fucked. Like it's just fantastic. James Gandolfini as Tony Soprano, one of the most, if not the most iconic television role of all time. It's rivaled by very few, if any. And I'd say like the only one who might give it a run for its money is Bryan Cranston's Walter White. But Walter White's just a rip off Tony Soprano in terms of what the subject matter at hand is. But
damn.
The Sopranos fucks and gave birth to an entire genre of television. So the prestige drama that didn't exist before The Sopranos. And thus, all these other ones we've talked about, Westworld, Watchmen, and the last few that are coming up, all prestige dramas don't exist without The Sopranos. So, year 2?
Bum 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 bum. It's Game of Thrones.
Fuck yeah,
and
baby.
I don't know if that surprised you that Westworld's my number one because I mean I'm throwing it out there. Just
yeah, I mean we can go ahead and talk like
the
that.
2 and the 1. Game of Thrones. If that show ended better, I still don't think it'd be above Westworld for me. Like that.
Damn,
that is how much I love Westworld. But not to take away from Game of Thrones right now. It's an incredible show. Probably one of the best TV shows ever made, just with production quality and like the amount of time and money and everything that went into the show. It's insane. George R.R. Martin finished the last book. Please, for the love of God. But there's really not many TV experiences like Game of Thrones. You don't get the main character getting his head chopped off at the end of the first season, the guy you're rooting. You don't have a red wedding in other shows. You don't have these crazy events that you can point to. We call it the red wedding. And people know immediately whenever you say the red wedding, all of the emotions and everything you felt during that time that you watched it. And it's like, it's
you're citing historical events. Like it's like you're citing things that like you're just like, and then obviously like the Battle of the Bastards and the battle at Hardhome and shit like that. Like we're out here like knowing the history of an entire mythology, but like some of us don't know shit about real life history compared to Game of Thrones.
That's true.
Which is just hilarious.
This might be a time period where I know more, in fiction than I do in reality. Whenever this were to take place in real life, year wise. Or I guess if it's even in this, I don't even know. I never even thought about that. If it's not even Earth, because
no, technically not. It's just
Westeros
another land
and whatever. But but Game of Thrones is just the performances. Everything about that show is just insane. Like the Battle of the Bastards, I think, was the most expensive episode that they ever filmed. And it was something along the lines of like tens of millions for one TV episode, which is just
insane.
It's unreal. Like, yeah, on average, it looks like Game of Thrones costed about $10 million per episode.
Per
season, which
that's
likely
$13 million a season.
Looks like the Battle of the Bastards costed much, much more than that, they say. I haven't found a figure, but they say likely at least double. Oh, so just a classic 20 million on a TV episode. But
God damn.
Okay. Yeah, but Game of Thrones.
All
Numero
right.
2.
All right. My number 2 is The Mandalorian. Now I knew the show's top 10, you know. It was a no-doubter for me. I absolutely love it. Pedro Pascal as Din Djarin, and the introduction of Grogu, and Giancarlo Esposito, again, part of this series. There's only been one show where I have been nearly the levels of hype that The Mandalorian brings me, and it's my number 1, and we'll get there. But The Mandalorian, it revitalized my Star Wars fandom, which is the most important fandom to me. One of the things that I regard in the highest way possible. I like, in terms of a way that like the sequel trilogy, I went and saw the movies and I really, really enjoyed them and stuff. But those that nothing prompted me to take a deep dive into Star Wars lore and stuff until The Mandalorian came out. And I knew some things, but The Mandalorian can be owed with the reason I know shit about Star Wars. Like that's how it became. But that first episode, the reveal where Grogu, our little baby Yoda in the prim there, like that, unmatched up until Luke Skywalker comes in the season 2 finale. And it's like, it can't get better than this. You know, like, it can't get better than this. And if you're a Star Wars fan and you haven't watched The Mandalorian, sorry that I just spoiled that for you, but there's no fucking way you didn't know that.
Yeah. That season finale was a treat. You know, they was one of the best just pieces of Star Wars content ever released, you know? So in that one episode. But it radiates throughout the entire show. So like it, you know, this show, I mean, it is beautifully crafted in the volume, first live action Star Wars show. Like, you know, this has so many things going for it. And man, I just can't wait to see where they're going. You know, where is our boy Din going? I don't know. I guess we might see soon.
We might see soon.
So,
but yeah, I'm there. The Mandalorian is absolutely a top 10 show. Absolutely one of my favorites of all time. And you know, this is one of those things where the thing that bolstered it truly was the Star Wars label. Because like this isn't as critically good a show as my 3, 4, 5, or 6. Like it definitely isn't, as far as The Sopranos, Westworld, Sherlock, and Watchmen are concerned. Those are better shows than The Mandalorian, there's no doubt. But it being my favorite Star Wars series automatically holds it to an esteem that I don't hold other shows at. So The Mandalorian had to be there for me.
Yeah, and I was just hesitant on putting Mandalorian and Book of Boba in here. I mean, they are like, I guess Mandalorian has 2 seasons out, but Book of Boba, I feel like it is a little still too early, even though, you know.
Yeah, like, I'm pretty confident that'll work its way in here, but for now, I'll call it an honorable mention. I think that if something doesn't even have a season out, it can't be eligible for this. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. But yeah. I'm glad it's on here though. That's for sure.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I guess my one's already known. You know, it's Westworld. And this is a show in which me and Colton had conversation about before I even watched the show. Like unrelated to the show, just the conversation that the show brings up. So the show was already right up my alley before I even watched it. And
I remember recommending it to you. Like, I've never found a show more perfect for anybody than Westworld is perfect for Joseph fucking George.
I don't know how many times I was in my bed and it made me physically sit up and like I would just be mind blown, and then I'd be like, oh my God, all the implications of what this means. And now I have to think of what is happening now. And then I'm like, oh wait, but then in one episode, I'm going to be mind blown again and everything's going to change and I'm going to have all of this all over again. And it's just, yeah, that first season is insane. It's unbelievable. And I see how people, could say that season 2 and 3 aren't as strong. I think season 2 was still season 2 was still beautiful. Season 3, like with, what do they call him? Like
Rehoboam?
Is that his name?
The Rehoboam?
Yeah. I never got that down to say that. I still can't say it.
Oh yeah.
I won't even try.
Rehoboam.
AI, big COVID spear.
But no, who was the dude? It started with like an S. The
the brother, the guy who had the
yeah.
Let's see.
I want to say Sarlacc, and I just know that's not right.
Let's see. Westworld season 3. Give me. There's no. IMDb. Here we go.
Scar.
It's right there. Let's see. Where is his face? Where is his face? Oh my God! How low is he credited on here?
I mean, he is only in season 3.
But this is the whole show. Okay, not just season 3.
Sirac.
That is okay. Thank you. Oh my God! Ever since you said S, I'm like, it's right there. I just can't. Sirac,
yeah, Sirac. I was like, I can see an A, a C, an S, and I know there's an R in there. What am I missing? So I was like, Sarlacc. I put all those letters together and thought Sarlacc, which is just hilarious. Shows my Star Wars fandom. But yeah, his role fucking awesome. Aaron Paul in season 3, probably the most if we're like the most audience avatar character there's ever been in the show. As far as like, I mean, I'm watching that show. I'm rooting for the robots. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm rooting for the robots. Like, what they've done to these robots is fucked up and cruel. They need to rise up above their oppressors.
Team Maeve or Team Dolores?
Oh, I need to give season 3 a rewatch. I haven't watched it since it was on TV. Since it was actively airing. I think that was in 20. God, was that last year or was that 2020?
For season 3?
Yeah.
It released 2020, March 15th.
Holy shit.
Wow,
it's already been 2 years since.
That's a lot newer than I thought it was, actually.
No shit.
I don't know. I just, I know they're coming back for a season 4, which I'm hyped for.
God, I can't wait. When?
I don't think they've released a date.
Oh, I thought you said a date. That's my bad. I thought you said a date. They
just confirmed the season.
Gotcha. No, I mean, the way they leave season 3, there better be a fucking season 4.
Oh yeah.
And I have no doubt there will be. But dude, that show, that's one I need to rewatch as soon as possible because it's as good as it gets. It just really is.
Jeffrey Wright as Bernard and Arnold,
functions.
And
dude, Anthony Hopkins
is insane.
The way he delivers lines as Dr. Ford is some of the best acting I've ever seen. Like that scene where he takes the chick to dinner in the reality and like he freezes everything as they're like pouring the wine and he like just talks to her and I'm like, this dude is good at his job, man. This is fucking great. It's just some impeccable content and Westworld is season 1 is, like I said, the greatest season of television I've ever watched.
Okay. So I have this question. This is kind of the only question that I have is was Ford alive at all? Or was he a complete fabrication by Arnold? Like, they were alive to make the park together, but then once Ford died, then Bernard created him in his mind, or he was in his mind, and that's, he was basically like Bernard or Arnold thought that Ford was there, like helping him along the way, like for a long time. And then he comes to the realization that it was him the whole time, and he just projected Ford there because he knew he would help him like get through it. But it was just himself. And like they never fully answer if Ford was ever alive in the first place. And
interesting.
like,
that's a question I've never even had.
Yeah.
I've always just gone Ford's alive.
That's what I thought, because he interacts with real people.
He
He
interacts with people. So he
yeah.
has to be to some capacity existing, and I don't think he was a host. I mean, unless he built himself to be a host, but like,
I don't know. That dude has a lot.
They shoot him through the head, and he has blood. So like,
that was his human body.
Sorry.
That's
Spoilers. They shoot him through the head, and he has blood.
That's fair.
Sorry.
I guess the point. I guess the blurred line is like where he fabricates Arnold or fabricates Ford in his mind. I guess Bernard
Bernard fabricates himself.
Yeah, because Bernard doesn't really know when or where he is. So I guess it really, like, that's kind of like the explanation they can give, is that like we don't know either because he doesn't have any idea.
No, yeah. So like you mean like the visions he has of Ford in season 2?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like did he code himself?
Was that Ford into Bernard, or was that just actually Bernard projecting Ford? You know, like
I've always taken it as an advancement in their consciousness, as a hallucination. Like the fact that they can even think like this, like think someone is there. Like that's more real than most things, you know what I'm saying? Like, like thinking there's someone there, and then
because
I don't know, there was something about it that I was just like, this. It almost makes them more human to experience something like that.
Like the whole Delos side, like trying to, create immortality and have everyone's consciousness transfer over to a host so they can live forever, whatever. Like Ford knew that was like never reasonable. Like he's like, this is never going to work out. Like, if you want to have immortality, you can't, like, it's just your consciousness, and you have to be in like a computer, basically, that's where it has to go. And we've seen him plan everything out from the very beginning. And like, he's such a good actor that like in season, like, I don't think they're done with him, is like what I'm saying. Like, I hope they're not done with him. And I hope he has like some comeback in some way, like I don't really see how they could bring him back is the thing. But there are still other parks that like we haven't like there's like other, like Westworld is just one of Delos'.
Yeah, they also have like Shogun World and shit like that. Like they've got some shit going on.
How many more
there.
do they have? I guess they could just say like they have like them all over the world so that they can just keep making season after season if they want. It's like, but at some point,
and
every
it could
host,
be the mission of Dolores to liberate the hosts in every park around the world and stuff. Like, but
curious to what season 4 will turn into. Like from season 1, knowing that like that's just a park. That's just a park, and those are computers, or like those are robots, and they can't die. Like that was like mind blowing from season 1.
It's like you look at where you're at in season 3, and you think back to where you were in the first episode of the series, and you're like, "Holy fucking shit! How did we get here?"
Yeah, you see William come up on Dolores, and he's just tanking bullets, and you're like, is this dude a god? Like, what is going on here? And then you're like, oh yeah, he's just a visitor in a park.
They don't get shot.
Meanwhile, Dolores is trying to kill every human being on planet Earth. That's cool. Yeah, it's like the scope of the show is just so crazy. I mean, it's my number 1. I think it will remain my number 1, probably for quite some time. I don't see many shows taking the mantle over Westworld for me,
and I understand that completely. That's undoubtedly the best. Like I said, the best season of television I've ever seen is in Westworld. But on to my number 1. This is where I have Game of Thrones. Even despite a rocky ending, watching that show for the first time was the most all-consuming thing I've ever experienced. In terms of like entertainment I was taking in, I've never become so immediately obsessed and enamored with anything the way that I was Game of Thrones. Like I was just
I'm trying to think of when I bought these banners, like my Stark, Targaryen, and Lannister
I
banners.
have the same one.
They were pretty early. Like, I mean, it was like pretty early. I had those. Like maybe after like season 2, which was like probably in a good week that I finished the first 2 seasons. Well, okay, actually, now that I think about it, when did because I started Game of Thrones, it was out for a little bit. I didn't start at season 1, like as it was coming out. I said there was like a couple seasons out. I think either 2 or 3. Maybe
you started
4,
early.
Maybe 4, but I think 3 or 2 is where I
didn't hop in until after
but...
season 5, either after season 5 into season 6, or after season 6 into season 7. Like I was not. I know I wasn't after 7 into 8.
Yeah, it's but that is a good way to describe, like, all consuming. It's like all that occupied your mind whenever you were watching the show. Like,
oh my God, it's so fantastic. And like, I have rewatched it very recently. You know, the show concluded in 2019, and I've kind of gone at a pace now where I've given it kind of my annual rewatch, where I watched it leading up at the end of 2018 into 2019 into season 8. Then I rewatched it in 2020, and then me and Emily started dating, and I showed her it, so I watched it in 2021. And I can firmly say, after watching it in 2021, that I'm not nearly as bothered by the ending as I once was.
I was really never bothered by it at all.
No, I was never like, oh my God, they ruined the series. Like, the only thoughts I had were that, like, they took a story that needed another season, and they crammed it into 6 episodes.
Exactly.
And like the events probably would have been the same. I'm not disappointed with the events. It's just the amount of story we got. We just needed more. And like if I'm okay with the story events, then like, as you can see, like, it could have been even better, and it's already my number 1. You know, like,
yeah, like Bran.
It's crazy.
Like I was in with him. I was like, that's who I was rooting for the whole time.
Makes sense.
Bran. And
if you rewatch the show, going, that kid ends up king, it makes that entire part of the story better. Like, the entire thread of Bran, his whole rise, it makes it all the better knowing he becomes king. Like,
is that end of episode 1? He falls out of the tower.
Yeah, that's the end of the first episode.
Damn, like,
that's
what's crazy. Like, it's just about Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen, and Bran Stark. Like, you really don't. Maybe Cersei Lannister. You know, I throw
Arya
her in there.
Stark.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Starks.
That, like,
yeah, basically just the Starks is like. They're like,
and that's the thing is that, like, you know, we gave the Sopranos and Daredevil credit for like getting us enamored with the world and caring about each character and loving knowing the stories of everybody. And Game of Thrones does that to a level that has never been fucked with. There are tens of characters. Like, I think there might be straight up 20 characters at one point that have stories concurrently. Like Daenerys, Jon, like all of
Jaime,
them.
Cersei, literally, like, every main person of a house, they all have a story. And like, and each house has like,
all the people, like, the people immediately around them have other stories. Like, and that's what's insane.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like, oh man, I gotta rewatch Game of Thrones now.
No. Like, and like, that's the thing is, even if the ending has left you a little sour, and I know it hasn't left you quite as sour as it has many people. A lot of people are like, I won't watch Game of Thrones spinoff stuff. Like I won't do that because of what they did there. And if that's the case, just go ahead and rewatch Game of Thrones because you'll remember how fucking jaw-dropping those first 6 seasons were. You'll get to the last couple seasons and you'll go, okay, I see what happened here.
They just
and
rushed
all you
it.
got to know is what happened there. You know what I'm saying?
They just rushed it. That's it. Like the events that happened, episode 3 of that final season, that fight,
Epic.
like, oh my
Epic.
God. Like the things that happened, we were still like, oh my God, like of a normal season. Like we would have experienced those same things, but more drawn out, like we would have had a few episodes in between and then we would have had that insane battle. And then a few episodes, a couple more. Then we're at King's Landing.
I stand firm in the idea that season 8 could have been season 8 and 9, and you could have left them 6 episodes each. The first 3 episodes should have been 6 episodes. The last 3 episodes should have been 6 episodes. And you get twice as much time with those stories, and we're sitting all the better. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, everyone was kind of done. And that's kind of like behind the scenes. Benioff and Weiss were done. They wanted to move on. All the actors were like you either got to give us money, or we're not doing this again because of just how grueling the filming process was, traveling all over the world for working 60 nights in a row, 60 night shoots for that Battle of Winterfell. That's insane.
You don't have the greatest TV show of all time if you don't do those things, though.
Right.
That is what you need to do. It's not just about the money or whatever. Like, the money that they spent gave them the show. Like, they had George R. R. Martin behind it. So, the story is the rock of Game of Thrones. That is it is. And I remember theorizing about, dragons and freaking White Walkers and the Wall and oh my God, remembering thinking back on that stuff, how fun that was. Oh my God.
I remember I think I must have been a junior when I watched it because I remember being in AP Physics, which I think we've talked about that many times on the podcast. How I wasn't good at the class. Dorsch did fantastic, but I just wasn't going to get it. And that might also be owed to the fact that there was months stretch there where all of my thoughts were consumed by Game of Thrones. So it was I was focusing on that a little too hard. I was also post a couple knee surgeries when I took that class. There was a lot of shit that went into that. But but this show just floored me from the get-go. And then our first episode of the podcast came out 1 week after the season 8 finale, the show finale, because we were like, that's what's going to start the podcast. We talked about Game of Thrones because that shit was epic, and that's the launching off point for the entire Penny Bloomiverse, if you will.
Damn, that's incredible. Makes sense.
So full circle here, but that fucking move. That fucking show. Just there's never been a character I've never been oh fuck, I might be in love with a guy. And Jon Snow, I was like, I really like this dude.
Everyone did, man. Yeah,
no, I was like, this man, I want to be him. He might be initially might be the reason I grew out my hair.
Damn. Yeah, it's Kit Harington.
That's
one sexy
man.
Motherfucker. Yeah, he's we got a lot of. You got Rob Stark.
We got a lot of sexy motherfuckers in this show.
Yeah, so there's no. They know what they're doing, but Jon Snow, different. He is built different.
Built different.
He's
and
that
just
dude.
At the Battle of the Bastards. That shot where he rode out and he's about to face down an entire fucking army, and he's chopping his feet because he's like I'm gonna fucking do and that's the thing too, is that after, spoilers for Game of Thrones, after he dies,
which
the first time. He forever has a death wish. Like he never again like cares if he lives or dies. So like whenever he faces down an entire army and is like that, he's like, I'm gonna die doing this, but I'm gonna do it. Whenever in season 8, episode 3, he stands up and screams in the face of a dragon. And he's lucky as fuck that Arya happened to kill the Night King right then, because we were gonna lose Jon. But he stood up and was like, "I don't give a fuck, motherfucker! Kill me then!" Like,
damn.
This man was as badass as they get. And I mean, the one thing that does suck about the rushing of the story, and because that last season is built around, still spoilers for Game of Thrones, the fall of Daenerys Targaryen. And that kind of feels like that's the thing, you know, like that was the part of the show that should have been drawn out, because and then if you do watch it, you rewatch it from the lens, she's got a little bit too much of the Mad King in her. You see a lot more scenarios where there's too much of the Mad King in her. That speech for Tyrion's like, you know, she crucified slavers in Astapor. We cheered her. Those are terrible men. She burns people alive. They're terrible men. Who cares? She comes here and she burns people alive, and then we ridicule her for it. It's kind of like, well, what did you think was going to happen?
That's the thing about the show, is that really the only person or people that you really root for is like a Ned or like a Robb Stark, King of the North. But what do they do with those
Robb
people?
Stark for those first 3 seasons? I'm like, Robb Stark's the main character of the show.
He is my man. Like I am ride or die for Robb Stark, King of the North.
That's why the Red Wedding just fucking guts you.
They knew.
Like
they knew. Like that's the thing. They knew the Red Wedding was coming, and they were like, we just have to build Robb Stark up as much as we possibly can. Make him the most lovable guy in the entire universe, you know? Like, just so that whenever we give you the Red Wedding, you're just devastated forever. But yeah, it's like choosing between the lesser evils, and you know, it's really the Starks that really are the only ones that you can comfortably be like, yeah, I could side with them here. Like, actually.
Oh yeah, they're definitely the only ones that you're like, yeah. But
Cersei is
that whole thing where they declare Robb the King in the North, and then 3 seasons later, we've watched the long-standing rise of Jon Snow, because Jon Snow, I mean, he's got a cool arc, right? Like, but for the first 2 or 3 seasons, his is a side story.
He
is not a main character.
Yeah, he's a bastard, you know? Like, that's the point, is like to...
And that's what made it, like, they wrote the show as, like, so very well that, like, the kid who you weren't supposed to care about because nobody in the universe cared about slowly became more awesome, and you slowly saw just how awesome he was. And then, like, he doesn't get back to the Night's Watch and like starts leading them and stuff until season 4.
Damn. And that's like his start, like at the Night's Watch.
Because then he's killed in the season 5 finale, revived in the season 6 premiere, or a couple episodes in. But like, yeah, because that's when the battle with the wildlings happens, is season 4. That's when Ygritte dies.
Nothing, Jon Snow.
You knew nothing, Jon Snow. But no, they got married in real life, which is awesome. But now Jon Snow's just whole meteoric rise, and then when you get to that point in season 6 where he's hung the guys who killed him, and he's like, my watch has ended. And he walks straight to Winterfell. You know what I'm saying? And
that's a man, I
absolutely, absolutely love. As soon as like he gets there and they realize who he is, just how amazing he is, he wins the Battle of the Bastards. They're like, the King in the North.
It's that dude.
The King in the North. I was like, fuck yeah! Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of very vocal. The show can make you vocal, and
Dude,
whenever
it
you're
made me
watching.
so
Oh,
happy. And just the whole thing is just so goddamn good. And I just reflect on it so lovingly. Like, no matter how much that last season might have been like, ugh, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, it just doesn't. Just from the strength of those first few seasons, it was too fucking good for me.
Arya with the kill shot,
Arya, and then knowing that's what she's working towards the whole time. That's
her
outstanding.
List,
it all makes sense by the end. It's like
the Hound, like all of these characters. Oh my god, like it's just like every conversation brings up another character you can remember, and then when you bring up that character, you're like, oh my god, then there's that whole branch of characters that they have under them, and then it's like
exactly because you open up the Hound side of the things, you obviously get the Mountain, and then you also get like the
Brienne of Tarth is in there for
Brienne
a little
of Tarth.
Then the faceless men with Arya, like going down there, they're like, oh my god, like, the World Bank at one point, like where the
Iron
money,
Bank.
Oh, the Iron Bank, that's what it was called. Yeah, like like just such cool.
Fucking Beric Dondarrion, just like a random motherfucker for the first few seasons, ends up being like the most sacrificial thing for Arya Stark's story, and it's like, what the hell?
I have a
Gendry Baratheon, Robert Baratheon, like the whole
Red
goddamn
Woman
show.
Is that what are they called?
The Red Woman, Melisandre.
Yeah, man.
Stannis Baratheon, Sir Davos of the Blackwater.
Damn.
Bronn, like, guy we haven't even talked about, but holy fucking shit, can't believe we haven't. The Daddy Lannister, the father that Tyrion kills.
What's his name?
Why can't I remember it?
I feel like it started with a T, though.
T was where I was at too, but
Charles Dance plays him. He plays. Let's see, Charles Dance in Tywin Lannister.
Tywin, that's right. I wanted to say Tyrell, but I knew that was another family.
Yeah,
so
the
I
House
was like,
of Tyrell. Yeah. Didn't even think of Khal Drogo.
Fucking Jason Momoa, and then you have that whole side of the story with Daenerys, and like watching her entire journey is just the most amazing shit. When she and Tyrion finally get brought together, she declares him hand, like a Grey Worm, and
Viserys,
Viserys, but not Melisandre, but the one that Missandei. I was like, they had really close names, and I always kind of mixed them back and forth. But Missandei, her right hand woman,
Pedro Pascal, getting his head
as the Viper,
mushed in by the Mountain,
coming, and that whole arc where Joffrey, the King Joffrey dies. They accuse Tyrion.
Oh, fuck that guy.
They accuse Tyrion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Pedro Pascal's the Viper comes and fights for him, and you're like, I fucking love this guy. He's got him. Yeah. He's got him. He's got him beat. Hey, admit it. You killed her. You raped her. Say it. You just had to twist the knife, bro. You just had to twist the knife, and I get it. You got a big beef here, but you got to kill this man. Just kill him. You know he did it. Just kill him.
Yeah, that was a very shocking
was the most
moment. That's for sure. Did that really just happen?
Yeah,
his head is a watermelon, and it he just with his hands, just crushed his skull. Like, oh my god.
I got one more too. The Winds of Winter, when Cersei blasts that shit to the sky, King Tommen kills himself.
Yep.
That whole thing, that's an epic episode. And that episode was the episode after the Battle of the Bastards.
Damn.
Those were back to back. That's the best penultimate and finale episode I've ever seen in my life.
She took out everyone. She was like, these people don't like me. They're all in one place right now.
Fuck them then.
What was the green stuff called? What'd they call that? Was it just wildfire?
Wildfire, yeah.
Was it like
Kyburn?
Like whenever they used it in
the Battle of the
Blackwater
Bay.
Was it Blackwater?
Like
yeah, Blackwater Bay.
Yeah.
Like it just sent that boat out there full of wildfire, just draining, and then the one flaming arrow, to set them all up.
Sir Braun.
Like everyone's seen that amount of many people die, and they're like, "Wait a minute! Like, was this the right move here?" Like they were like taken back, like seeing the sheer destruction. They were like, "Wait a minute! This was like, I don't know,
Is this
like
ethical?"
Yeah, like and. I don't know. What a man. That's crazy that we've gone like just binked around this show. Like you can just go like one character brings you to one person and then they're connected to the web of intricacy of this show is just insane. Like how everyone's connected.
Insane.
Like, oh
yeah. And for that, it's undoubtedly my favorite show of all time. The most fun viewing experience I've ever had. Like week to week, especially season 8 rolls around. My ass is in the seat. 8:00 comes around. I'm pressing play. Everyone better shut the fuck up. Turn off all the lights. Shut the windows. We're watching Game of Thrones. You speak, you're getting smacked. And that was like that was kind of my deal. Season 8. I think my family kind of hated the person I became during that time because one time someone like came into the kitchen while it was on and like said like half a syllable and I went ah.
How dare you? You address me as my lord as well.
I'm watching this on the big TV. You better believe it.
Your Grace. Like they're oh man. Yeah, the Reigns of Castamere. Like I used to know like that's the thing. I know so many songs like from this like universe. And like
how about Podrick? Big Dick Podrick.
Dude fucks. That dude fucks.
Yes. And he sings. That
man.
Shit in season 8 where they were like, anybody know a song? And then Podrick starts singing, and you're just like, and it's just that last moment before the battle. We haven't even mentioned fucking Theon Greyjoy and that whole
Reek.
thing with Reek and the Bolton.
The Greyjoys. Oh my god! Like,
dude, there's so much in the show. Like, but Podrick singing the Jenny of Old Stones, that shit was so good. High in the halls of the kings who are gone. That shit's too good.
Man. Yeah, I don't know how like another show could like even with the technology we have to make all of these shows possible, like there's still the amount of actors and actresses that were in this, like the sheer story that was behind it. Like I don't like if there will ever be another show like this ever again, like that's, and it's just, I mean, obviously I hope so, but if not, I'm definitely glad I was alive during this time, of this show.
Dude,
like,
this show was so special. But we are getting the spinoff. We're getting House of Dragon this year, probably
big boy dragons.
Months.
Big boy dragons.
Within a couple months anyway. I'd guess that comes around before halfway through the year.
Shit.
I'm gonna tell you right now, that's one we're covering week to week, and that's for sure. Regardless of what else is happening, I mean, like if the only reason we'd be covering 2 shows at a time is if Kenobi happens at the same time, which at where we're sitting seems like it might be a decent possibility.
Okay with me.
Okay with me too. If I'm getting Game of Thrones and Star Wars content, I'm a happy boy. Yeah. No work and all play makes Colton a happy man.
Yes. Thank you for.
Of course.
I always thought that I was too high on The Shining, but like
that movie's too fucking good.
I'm glad.
And that's another thing too, is that like the way we've talked about TV shows like Hawkeye and like What If, and it's like, gosh, every week that passes that we're further and further removed from it, the more I really enjoy it. The Shining, as I'm further and further removed from it, as like compared to all the other movies we've covered in this project, that just keeps going better and better for me.
It's unique, man. It sticks with you for just some reason.
Unique
That
New
hotel, you
York.
just can't get rid of it, you know?
It sticks with you, but yeah, for sure. That'll be coming in a couple weeks. The Shining episode. That's our 1980 film. If you're fucking with me and Joe, our 52-year journey through film. Cover everything from 1970. Every week, a movie from a year after 71, 2, 3, 4, all the way through the 70s, all the way through the 80s, 90s, aughts, 10s, and a couple years in the 20s until that last week of December, where we will discuss a movie from this year, 2022. And I look greatly forward to the rest of the projects that we have here. And think this week is actually Star Wars, if I'm not mistaken. Star Wars 1977. Here, let me double check that just to make sure that I'm on my game here, because we've got some scheduled content. That's kind of the thing I'm working my way around, is that we've still got content from the time we're recording this that'll come out in a couple weeks, and then this won't come out until after that. So it's like, do
you know when this episode will come out?
It all straight.
A general idea?
What?
Like when
this will come out? Here, let me get to it, because that's what I'm working on right here. So this will come out, yes, in between Taxi Driver and Star Wars. So our live commentary of Star Wars A New Hope Episode 4 will be this Friday, just me and Joe. It was a ton of fun doing that. We did that actually on Thanksgiving, funnily enough. A good way to spend a holiday, at least the first hours of a holiday anyway. Very, very, very exciting, fun episode, and I can't wait for you to check that out. I was Colton Robertson, joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Oh, thank you for having me. Glad I have a top 10 list just to myself now. This was nice to have.
Of
Watchmen
course.
is in there, by the way. Just to let you know.
If you would, rattle off what is your official top 10 here real quick before we get out of here.
Well, there is 11 now, because I still haven't decided which one falls below, but I have decided that The Watchmen is going in there, so I still have that decision to make. But as of right now, 1, Westworld, 2, Game of Thrones, 3, The Sopranos. I put The Watchmen at number 4, and then Lost at 5, Peaky Blinders, Ozark, Breaking Bad, Sherlock, Daredevil, and What If. So if one had to go, I don't know. I would say What If.
You just got 11.
Because it's a single season. Yeah, like just because it's a single season, What If, I know will make it in my top 10 eventually with another season. So I'll say What If is out to keep Matt Murdock in, because he deserves it. So yeah.
Fair enough.
My top 10.
Yeah. Mine is Game of Thrones, The Mandalorian, The Sopranos, Westworld, Sherlock, Watchmen, BoJack Horseman, Breaking Bad, WandaVision, and Rick and Morty. Those are my top 10 favorite TV shows of all time. And I feel very good about it. And this is another ever-changing tapestry, as is like top 10 favorite movies of all time. And I'd say we've done a top 10 favorite movies of all time. It's been a little bit though, and I know it's not the same as it was last time. So that's probably not too far from around the corner. But might have to get that in the works here soon. But yeah, this was our top 10 favorite TV shows ever. And if you would, head to patreon.com/CoroBloom, where you'll find well over 21 hours of exclusive content at this point, with just tons of stuff set to come out soon. And yeah, we're getting that updated a lot more frequently than we have in the past. A couple episodes a week. At the very least, you're going to get one. But well, I like to schedule things ahead of time, and then if we discuss something that's a little bit more pressing, a little bit more timely, I go ahead and shoot it off on the Patreon. It's like they're paying for the content; they'll get the content. Let them eat cake.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So that helps out a lot in terms of making sure this podcast can happen. Make sure you follow on Twitter at PennyBloomPod. Follow on Instagram at PennyBloomPodcast. If you're out there and you're listening and you're on Twitter, go ahead and send us your top 10 favorite TV shows of all time. See what it's all about. See if we have any listener interaction. Haven't really ever done this sort of call and response for Twitter thing. Be interesting to see if we have any active listeners who are willing to do that. But Yeah. With that, peace, love, and bloom. And always praise Keanu Reeves.